Hi, my name is Megan, and this is a Naughty Mess Knitting podcast. Hi, everybody. I am filming again really early on a Sunday. It is January 21st. I am going to try to get this episode out tonight. We just had a busy yesterday, and I didn't feel like filming on Friday. I think this is an okay schedule for me. I don't want to necessarily do 6 a.m. on Sunday all the time because I'm tired. But also like maybe Saturday evening or baby nap time on Saturday if she's having a good day. She actually had a great nap yesterday and I could have done an episode, but I had a bunch of chores I needed to do and I was a good mom and I did those things. Also because, I will do a life segment first. An exciting thing that Mike and I decided this year is that we've been in our house for just over a year, and the one thing that made me cry when we moved into this house, because it's a gorgeous house and it's 3 times as big as our last house, it's all the things that we needed, but our last house, we did an entire top to bottom renovation ourselves. So like I got to pick out every single finishing thing. I tiled, I got to do like, you know, all these little things, and like the kitchen and the, all the storage areas, but our closet especially, we made a walk-in closet in that house and I got to pick out the organization. And then our closets here were already done, but they were all like those wire closet made, and I cried. The only thing as we were packing up, I was like, I just hate the closets. Okay, they've been serving us for space, but I feel that with all the things I'm knitting and all the things I've planned to knit, there's not a lot of space, shelving space in there, and it's quite squished, and they're inside a closet that's inside the bathroom, and I'm like, I don't want all that moisture. I want them to be displayed nicer, something I work really hard on, and also like to keep them front of mind for me, and you know, so we have a relatively large bedroom, and so I asked Mike if this year we could prioritize organizing our bedroom. It's also, of course, the last room in the house that like everything else is decorated. Our bedroom has been painted, but has absolutely nothing hung up, and everything kind of just like gets thrown in there, right? So we are making an IKEA wall of storage, not this, a nicer something than this, that's gonna have drawers and stuff, so we get rid of the dressers that we have, and then we'll have much more shelf space for me to put out hand knits. And I'm like, okay, in my mind, like, do not gather other things to fill this, like keep this open for the knit things. And so I'm really excited. That was something I wanted to do. It arrives tomorrow, so I've been prepping our bedroom. Those are my really fun chores, but I'm excited about it, and yeah, it's gonna be hopefully so nice. I'll take a picture when I'm done, hopefully, of the sweater display. So and the other thing is, like, I ran out of, like, my dressers got some like oddly tall drawers, and I do not stack depth wise. I stack vertically, like a little Marie Kondo. I don't obviously do the Marie Kondo keep only 10 of whatever things. Oh, these are poking out. But I do like to see what I have, right? So these deep dresser drawers are not really serving me anyway, but I ran out of space for hand knit socks, and they've been sort of just like floating in this cute little tub on top, but I'm gonna find a real storage solution for them. Okay, I'm done rambling. Now we're on to our regular podcast episode. Today I have 2 finished objects, 1 sweater and 1 yarn. I have a couple of whips, a spinning whip, and a couple of topics to talk about, no acquisitions. So there we go. Let's get chopping. I am doing, okay, let's do the Chimera first. So what I'm wearing is familiar to anyone who watched this fall. I did a Languishing Whips episode, and this was one of them. This is the Chimera by Tanis Lavallee, who is Tanis Fiber Arts. And I cast this on so I went back in my photos to try to find out when I cast it on. The first picture I have of it is just a little bit of yoke right around May 1st. So I put May 1st, 2022 as the start date. I finished this on like Sunday, I think. I just had, once I finished the sleeve that I had to finish, like last time I showed you, I had just the cuff to finish and then the body. Well, I put the body on and I was like, oh, this is done. So then I just did the split hems and I did all that on Sunday, and then I just cast it off. Washed it, I put it out to block all on Sunday just so I didn't dilly-dally on any of these things. I took measurements last night so I can share those with you. And yeah, I mean, I am gonna be, I don't know if I'll keep it. And I'll tell you why. So I made let's do the details. I made the size 9, which is a 46-inch bust. It looks like the recommendations are some positive or negative ease depending on your preference, which I don't hate that as a suggestion, honestly. And she put on, like, for the 2 modeled samples, like what had positive, what had negative ease by like 1 or 2 inches, and so you could see how it fit on somebody. I used 4mm needles for the body, 3.5mm needles for the ribbing. This is an amalgamation of Knit Picks, Wool of the Andes, these 2, the tan and the orange, a DK estate sale old Feltex color or yarn, and then the green is Knit Picks City Tweed. Okay, DK. So let me stand up. So this would have 1 inch of negative ease on me. I did measure it and it is 46 inches. When I laid it flat, it was 23 across, but I will say, like, yeah, I mean, I think it's like, you know, it's definitely got a tiny, but like, it doesn't feel like, it's not tight. So like, maybe like just the way that your body sits, it's not necessarily like not giving me a little ease in the back or whatever. Anyway, okay, I can't get further back right now. Let's see. Here we go. So with my hair back, you can see the neckline is quite wide, and I don't think that was like blocking. Because I tried to make the neckline like more deep, because when I tried it on, I was like, oh, this is like basically off the shoulder. And then the hem is just like a 2, and also I think I ended the hem just a little bit early. I made it closer to, it was supposed to be 3 inches, but I made it closer to 2. And it's a split hem, just a regular split hem. But that's what the cuffs are too, and I just didn't feel like it needed to be any longer. And also I was really done knitting this. Okay, so yeah, here's a reason I don't know that I would keep it. I mean, I gotta wear a bra. I'm not the kind of person who can just walk around without one. So like, this is annoying because I think my bra straps would just always be showing. The other thing I don't necessarily love is the colors, as we talked about. Like, yes, I like this green. Spot on for me picking that, but also the rest of the colors being the first thing to touch my, like, be near my chest. Like, I don't know, it's okay. I don't hate it, I guess, but it's like really, really giving me like hard 70s vibes. And I think also, let's just talk about this, like the way it sits on my chest with like the small and the large. Anyway, I don't know that I love it. And if I don't love it, I probably won't wear it because I have lots of other options I love very much. And so likely this is gonna just be another donation. But it was so close to being done. I wasn't going to use the yarn for anything else. Also, the reason I use this City Tweed in this is because I had like an odd amount. I had gotten it from a D-stash and I had like 6 balls, which is like 3. I could have maybe made a t-shirt with it, but at the time I was only making a couple of sweaters. I was definitely not in the t-shirt or tank top land. So I, you know, that's why I picked this. And then I'd have all these like itty bitty bits if I tried to yeah, not worth it for me to keep. This is not super expensive yarn. The Knit Picks City Tweed is like, I think, really affordable. It's actually a pretty nice yarn to work with. Like, I don't, as far as like itchiness goes, definitely having all that wool of the Andes here is a little bit prickly. I'm not super sensitive, so like I don't, you know, it's okay. But it is like, I think if I got really warm, that'd be like kind of itchy. What I have heard is for wool of the Andes, is another one that if you just do some like person hair conditioner inside of with wool wash, when you wash it like a couple of times, then it will soften up more, like I did for that alpaca. So but I think it's kind of a workhorse yarn. I think this is like a good affordable option if you need like a worsted weight in like a ton of colors. One of the things I hate about all the Knit Picks yarns, like everything is 50 grams, which, well, I mean, they have a couple of 100-gram things now, but a lot of their yarns being 50 grams. I think I get it because you can get half skeins and that's really great, but it's more ends. And like, I'm always on the crusade for less ends. That's my whole thought about it. Okay, let's move right along then. I will go through WIPs, and I decided today I'm gonna go in cast on order. So Oldest WIP first. And I made some pretty good progress. So my oldest WIP on the needles, and we're not talking about I still have the Pillars of Simplicity to finish. That's my other languishing WIP from that fall episode, and I am going to pick that one up, but I decided I'm not gonna do it. Well, I'll talk about my WIP management for 2024. My goal for WIP management. So at the end of the episode. Anyway, so this is my Cinnabar shawl. This is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, who is Drea Renee Knits. It is a asymmetrical garter brioche shawl. And I love it. That's my colorful side. Here's my slightly less colorful side. Okay, so I'll give you the quick details of this and then we can talk about progress. I am using, I'm making it's one size. I am using 4mm needles, which is what's recommended. I am using Pearl Soho Driftwood Gray, which is an undyed yarn. It is 100% Andean Highland wool and 383 yards for 100 grams, so like a light sport. And then Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool Absolute Zero, which is 100% American wool. It's 200 yards for 50-ish grams. And I weighed my skeins and they were not all 50 grams. One of them was, they were all a little bit less than, like 46 or something like that. So again, that'd probably be like a light sport. Okie dokie. Where's my progress keeper? Oh, it's still on here. My kid, I was knitting this next to her last night and she kept trying to touch the middle and I was like, what are you doing? And she was just sitting there as I was moving and knitting. She was just trying to get my stitch marker, my progress keeper. I was like, oh, you're a baby. That's so cute. Okay, so here is my Hello Lavender stitch marker. So I have completed this whole big stripe, which is 40 rows. It's a lot. This is not, we're not messing around here. Brioche is so condensed. And then this is the last of my little opposite stripes. I really enjoy knitting this. I really enjoy brioche. Because of the rate of increase, like it's a lot of brioche. Let's be very frank. This went from like a very fun amount of brioche to being like kind of a lot of brioche. But I'm nearly there. So I did one whole repeat, which you can almost not tell until you have the next one on. What color am I on? Okay, so I did 3 of 4 rows for the first repeat in going back to this like large chunk. I have half of a large chunk left and then garter. So I am trying to get this done because I'd like to use it while it's still cold. and it's so squishy and it's so nice. And like, look at this color. It's gorgeous. Like, I just want to wrap myself in this. Okay. So I have work to do, but I did quite a lot, and I did not show this for a couple of weeks, I think, but I honestly didn't pick it up. Like, I had maybe added 2 rows before like last week's episode. I did the rest of this week. So I am just trying to stick to a goal of knitting on this every day for at least like a couple of rows. Just, I was gonna say a half a repeat, which is 2 rows, but just like going through each color one time, that's all. So I have 20, not less than 20, 17 rows until I get to the bind off, which is a lot of ribbing. It's like kind of a lot of rows, but it's only going to be at the end like 400 stitches, which honestly is not that much. I do bodies of fingering weight sweaters with 400 stitches. But for some reason this feels like a lot flat. And part of that is because like you're doing every other row purl, and that's not as fun. Anyway, I am enjoying it. I think like as far as like if you like brioche knitting, but you don't necessarily want the ones with all of the crazy increases, decreases, it's not a lot of thought brioche pattern. And I think that it's going to be totally amazing to have. And like Ariel and this is a friend knit, by the way. So I'm knitting this with Ariel of Airy Knits podcast, Emily of Gently Chaotic Knits podcast, and our friend Maya, who's What Maya Made on Instagram. And the Ariel and Emily are both in my knitting group, but Emily has been gone since traveling the world since, I don't know, August or September. I guess it was September. And so this was a really fun thing to cast on with her while she's out and about and, you know, seeing her progress. And she's done, and Ariel is done, and Maya and I are finishing. We will get there. So the next one to talk about is my Calm Down cardigan, and I will finally bring this up. So I have 5 things on the needles, and I'm going to talk about all of them because I did touch all of them this week. So my Calm Down cardigan got a little bit of progress. Oh, I'm going to go back to my second finished object of this week. So my second finished object of the week is yarn. So this is Godric's Hollow from Into the World. It is 100% Polwarth. It's my first Polwarth yarn spin, and I decided to do a chain ply. I did a chain ply because the way of this is just dyed in gray and yellow chunks. I didn't really want a gray and yellow barber pole situation for yarn. So this is going to be more of like, when I knit it, like yellow, gray, and that's fine. So, and not, you know, not even striping or anything like that, but it will be sort of like chunks of color. Okay, so let's talk about the chain ply. We can get in here and see. You can see it looks different because it's 3 plied together. I feel like it looks more plied, and part of that is just like I was probably over plying, but also it was a new skill to do, and I felt like the first half of me doing it, I was like, what are my hands doing? I watched a lot of videos before. Conceptually, I totally get it, but actually making your hands do the thing and not like let go of the yarn and not, you know, let pieces get like, because you have to keep tension so that you don't get like little pigtails happening. And it was like a little challenging the first like third. I just kept feeling like, I was like, what am I doing? Like, why are my hands being weird? But I finally it's like I got it. I finally just like got into a little bit of a rhythm, and I was like, oh, this is pretty fun actually. I'm enjoying this. I don't think I would do it for like every yarn. I also don't know that I'd like always want to make a 3-ply. So, but I do think this will be really enjoyable to knit with because the ply is like a little bit tighter, and it's not gonna, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I do like a 3-ply. We shall see. But yeah, so you can see here, I do have still quite a lot of thick and thin. The Polwarth was pretty fun to work with. It was a little bit I wasn't trying to get a certain consistency. I think this, I didn't count this, but like this is probably sportish weight. I would guess. Let's see, you can see like a real gray section here. Yeah, so I'm like excited. I'm excited to have another yarn done. No, I have not knit with any yarns yet. No, I have not amassed like 20. So I will knit with them in the near future. I think I'm going to cast something on soon. That's what I have to say about it. And I'll tell you more about that because I've got to talk about the WIP management system. And let me just, okay, skein this guy. Okay. So here's a buddy skein. He's gonna just go with my other hand that's up there, or hand spun yarn up there. Having hand spun yarn is so fun. Okay, so that was my other finished object of the week. So let's go to the Calm Down cardigan. This is the Calm Down cardigan by Lily Kate France, who is Lily Kate Makes on Instagram, and Lily Kate Makes on YouTube. She has actually some really great tutorials that go along with her patterns, so I think that's pretty nice. And one of them you use to pick up the stitches along your little saddle shoulder so that they aren't too wonky, which is very good information. Okay, like I said last time, I had to rip this out. I didn't leave it in timeout for too long because it had already just been in purgatory. This is a friend knit. I think our entire Seattle group is making this, plus our friends in San Francisco or the Bay Area. Sorry, I keep saying San Francisco, but they definitely, I don't think really anybody lives right in San Francisco. So the Bay Area. And yeah, it has been so fun to knit with them because we now do like some Calm Down cardigan calls and we chat about progress and just like work on it while we're together. You know, at the end of this whole line is me, Katie, and Sharon. I think we're the lone like not even joined in the body. Everybody else has been making great progress. So the only time I was really working on this was during our calls though, and partly because it's the cones, and I found the cones a little challenging to take upstairs at first because I thought like the easiest way to pull the yarn is like to be above them, like to pull off the cones without like having to manipulate, like, you know, anyway. Well, to do that in my like next to my couch would be like basically where the dog likes to lay. So she was annoyed when I put them there, and then they were full of dog hair, and then I was like, I don't know what to do. So I just didn't take them upstairs for a while. Well, I need to get over that. And so I put them in a bag actually, and it's not actually that hard. I just pull out a bunch at once and then I knit and whatever. But I did have to rip it out because this was purled and this side was knit. That's not correct. When you put it on your shoulder, you want both sides to be knit out. Surprising, right? So now my purl or my ribbing sections are actually on the same side. All the things are correct. I have gotten past the point I was last time. I didn't put a marker on because I ripped everything out. And so this is all new to you, technically. And I'll put a marker in. I am at the increase rows for the back, like for the armhole. And I'm almost done, I think, almost done this. Not, kind of. I'm at least like the last section of increases. Anyway, that might be a lot of rows, but I'm like getting there. Sometimes I feel like progress can be tracked by how far you've gotten into the pattern, whether or not the one line says knit for 12 inches. That's okay. I still got through the hard part of the instructions and now I'm on the easy part. So yeah, I want to get through that piece and pick up the right shoulder soon. like in the next, like pretty soon. I'd like to just get this knocked out now pretty soon. So I am making the size 4, which is 51.5 inches. Recommended ease is 10 to 12 inches. I'm not making it that big. I don't like how oversized it looks. I think partly because the sleeves already are oversized. And I get that that shape is very in on people to just like, for small people to wear something very oversized. And like oversized sweaters are in, but like I don't like the look of a cardigan where I'm going to wear something normal underneath and then have this like really big cardigan. To me that looks a little frumpy. So I'm not doing it. Anyway, whatever. That's the size I chose. I'm using 4mm needles for the body, 375 for the ribbing, which I did use for this part. The ribbing, I guess, is only on the cuffs and bottom otherwise. And then 3.5 supposedly for the button band, though I want to be very careful of this because like Sylvan just finished her button band and it was too tight. And I think I knit my double knit relatively tight. And so that's what the button band is. So I may just do also a 375. I don't want to rip it out. Maybe I'll do a little swatch. God, unlikely. But like, I don't know. That would be so sad if I did the whole button band and then it was like pulling up. Sylvan ripped hers out, I think, during our call. And then she said she's going to put it in timeout for a while. And I respect that because that would make me so sad. I mean, I had to now unknit the back. That made me pretty sad. So I am using Woolly Knit merino cones in bias. They're 100% merino. They are light fingering, but I'm holding it double, so it's 257 yards for 100 grams. And what I will say is that for unraveling onto the cone was great for 2 people because I had 2 cones. So having 2 people do it went really fast. But the yarn still looks pretty nice, like for being like a non-superwash. It didn't get really pilly or weird unraveling and then knitting with it again right away. And obviously I didn't soak it because it's on the cone and I was like not gonna cut it. It's the whole thing. Anyway, let's go on to our next WIP. I don't know why I put my computer down. Obviously we're moving on. This is I have 3 2024 WIPs already. So this is my ballerina wrap top from Alexi Tavel, who is 2 of Wands. And we have so many things to talk about with this, but I will show you the progress I made, which is a decent amount. This week I wanted to get split for sleeves, and I totally did. I don't have a lot after the split for sleeves, like an inch, a little bit over. But here's where I was last week. My little Hello Lavender stitch marker that is from Flock last year. This is another friend knit, sort of. Well, I mean, it is. It's just the way that we do friend knits sometimes are not what you would think. So, and look how bright this color is. It's crazy, and I don't know that I will look good in it, but I'm here for it. Oh, by the way, this is what we're going to talk about in a second, but this is Explore Knits and Fibers Rocky's DK, which is 274 yards for 100 grams, and it's 100% superwash merino. I have to update you guys on the whole twisty stitch situation. So this is okay. So I split for sleeves. I did quite a lot of progress. I mean, this is the middle of the back, and I knit 3 inches. Yeah, 3 inches of finger length for me. 3-ish inches. And I finished the raglan, split for sleeves, and now I got to the part where I do like a ton of, I think like 20 or something increase every knit row just on because it's a wrap top, so just on what she's calling the neck, but you know what I mean, like it's the fold over part. And I won't do increases anywhere else. You do eventually do some like cast on stitches, so like you increase further, so you're casting on too. And I don't really know why you would do that rather than, I don't know, maybe just to keep that like ridge line. I don't know if that's a better method than just like putting increases inside your stitches, especially, well, one side's gonna be out. Maybe that looks nicer, not really sure. I haven't done this kind of wrap top, so we shall see. But I will say, I saw the most amazing Instagram video the other day of, I got a cordsmith for myself in December. I'm very excited to use it. A cordsmith, if you don't know, is an I-cord. I forgot to bring it down again. It's an I-cord tool. I'm sure you guys have seen this all over Instagram, but Autumn Goodman from Size Inclusive Collective essentially put latch hooks on the end of a little plastic thing. I actually, someone very weirdly, like 2 weeks ago, one of my coworkers, and I don't go on Facebook, so I didn't see this, but she sent me this picture that her mom is a crafter, big crafter, and she got this latch hook thing too, but it was not a cordsmith. It was like put onto this nice wooden thing, but very much the same idea. And I was like, interesting. And I don't know if she's had that forever or whatever. But I haven't used it yet. So essentially you can make a 3-stitch I-cord with this little tool, and you like wrap the yarn, pull it, wrap the yarn, pull it, theoretically faster than doing an I-cord. Also, I-cords are kind of fiddly. They like hurt my hands a little bit because I feel like I'm like doing this weird, I don't know, it's like a weird thing. But I was resigned to the fact that I would still have to do, because this is also supposed to be a 4-stitch I-cord. Do not care. If I have that thing to get me 50 inches of I-cord, I'm going to use it. I'm not going to, be sad that it's three stitches, not 4. But then I was like, okay, well then I'll still have to pick up all of these body stitches, and it's going to be a lot of body stitches to do the edging, and then you have to I-cord the whole entire neckline. I was like, oh, this is gonna be rough. Somebody put out a video this past week of them doing an I-cord bind off with the cordsmith, and they just like stuck the cordsmith in, pulled that stitch, and I was like, I mean, obviously that would work, but like I didn't really think about it. So like just the the edge or whatever, the last hook picks up, and so then you just like knit together. She does something additional to like not get it to be too tight, because the latch hook, you don't control like the size necessarily of the I-cord. But I'm intrigued. I may try it. I'm definitely gonna try it. I might have to rip it out, but doesn't matter, because that would be so amazing. Okay, let's talk about this yarn. So last week I said, and I'll show you again, you can definitely see it, I have that sort of twisty stitch look. So I have in the back here, you can see that one column of knit stitches is tighter than the other consistently across the entire body. I'm not knitting any differently. Let's look at something else really fast. That's a DK weight. This is also a DK weight, pretty similar, like 257 yards, 270, both on, this is a 4.5 millimeter. This is a 4. So like not super different. Let's just look at this fabric. My stitches are super consistent sizes. Both sides are the same. There's some dog hair on there. But you know what I mean? Like this is what my knitting looks like. I'm not doing anything different. And they're both flat knitting too. So like, okay. So let's talk about why. After the episode, I was like, you know what? I am going to just look this up. Why I didn't do it before? It was 6 a.m. So I just wasn't going to do it. Here's what the deal is. And I'll link the video below, but I will give the very short explanation here. There's a gal who does 3 swatches, one with a balanced yarn, one with a S on S twist, and one with a Z on Z twist. And she shows you what happens when you knit flat swatches with all of them. And so this phenomenon happens kind of regardless of your knitting style. What I will say is that you can also look up some other things about like unbalanced yarns, and some crocheters, depending on if they're right or left-handed, find that they have less of their yarn separating when they use one or the other of the unbalanced yarns rather even than a balanced yarn. And so I'll tell you what that means in a second. Okay, now that I've been spinning, this is something that makes a lot of sense to me. So what Maya explained to us, like the very beginning of our class, is that most people I mean, and that's a very generalized sentence there, but a lot of people spin, and a lot of commercial yarns are produced by creating a balanced yarn. So you, on the spinning wheel, can spin either direction, right? And so obviously when you spin one direction or the other, the yarn's going to twist a different way. So if you're spinning your singles one way, you can't pick up your, you can't like pick up the yarn the next day and start spinning the other way. It'll just unravel. Like it will not catch on the wheel. It's like, it'll create a mess. But what most people do is they spin one direction and they ply the other direction, so that when they are plying the yarn, because again, you're just twisting the yarn. Yeah, you're twisting the yarn on another piece of yarn, to them together. But if they were both plied in one direction or spun in one direction and then plied in that one, you're likely to get an unbalanced yarn where it'll just like be very overplied and maybe a tangly mess when you pull it off of the bobbin. Let me show you a 2-ply that I made that demonstrates this. So this is that really beautiful, my really beautiful grapevine yarn. Okay. I'm gonna put up just like an image of this because I think it's really easier to see that way, but yarn is S or Z twisted is what they refer to, and that just means right or left twisted. And the letter, I'll put up the picture so you can see it, but like the letter, the middle part of the letter is what corresponds to S or Z. Z twisting means your wheel is spinning clockwise, and S twisting means your wheel is spinning counterclockwise. Okay, when you're making it. So to the right or to the left, I don't know, however you want to think about it. So this one is S twisted, and if I put the little image, if it's still there, you can kind of see that like it has the S. And I don't know if this shows backwards, so like, because I am doing a front facing camera, maybe I'll put a picture of it up. I don't know, whatever. You can see the thing up there. But I spun this Z. So even if I overspin a little bit, once I S twist it, it's sort of, when it plies, it like it relaxes the yarn a little bit together. What's happening in this Rocky's DK, and I pulled out just like an end from, where they were knit to, or where it was bound, the skein was bound. And this yarn is S twisted on S twist. So you can kind of, I need 3 hands to do this. You can kind of see there's the S twist. So, but what the issue is, and why we are having that pull my yarn to the side, is that our baby strands, so this is a 4-ply, our baby strands are also S twisted. And so you have an S twist on an S twist, just makes, and it looks fine. Like it's not, being a curly mess or anything like that, right? But it is a commercially done yarn. So the S twist in each of the small plies is like kind of loosish. And then the S twist together is relatively tight. Like I did say, you can see, like I could tell when I started this, when I like wound this yarn, I was like, oh, it's one of those weird bouncy yarns. And so you can see that like the plies on the, when it all together are like very twisted. And so all it does is it creates this sort of odd phenomenon where when you're knitting with it, it pulls like your right hand or the right leg of your stitches is just looser. The left, it stays tighter. Like it's just what happens. So watch the video for more explanation. I kind of took a long time too to explain that. Maybe I'll edit it down. Anyway, all that to say, it is a thing that you can't avoid. I have seen a lot of people knit in Rocky's DK, and I've not seen this happen for everybody's, but I also haven't, I don't look that closely at the fabric, right? And I think from far away, it's not that noticeable. So like in pictures, I probably won't notice that this looks like a column of whatever stitches. way back here, like it just looks like a knit thing. So like maybe I just, and I've never knit with Rocky's DK before, so like maybe I just like never noticed it. And I don't, this does not bother me, right? But I know that some people that like really dislike when that happens. And if you're one of them, I'm just letting you know that is potentially going to happen for you. If you crochet, it's like different story, right? And that's all. That is all. Those are all of my things about that. What I did not tell you is what size I'm making for that top. So that is an extra large. It's going to be 44 inches. The recommended ease is -2, like -2 inches. I'm using 4.5 millimeters for the body, which I think is one size bigger than the recommended. I'm not really, I didn't look at that part. It is Explore Nested Fibers, Rocky's DK. Okay, so let's go to my next one, which is my stick season. So anywho, I just had a couple questions, like comments and questions, and so I wanted to cover like, why is that yarn? Why is that yarn doing that? And so, yeah, so it was just really interesting, like going back, thinking back on what Maya said. She was like, yeah, creating a balanced yarn is usually easier to knit with. And I was like, oh, this makes sense. Well, and it's definitely like, if I did, being sort of an over spinner, if I ever did like a Z on Z or an S on S twist, I think that like as soon as I pulled it off the nitty naughty, it would be like some crazy tangly something. Like I would not even be able to wash it. It would be so crazy. Yeah. Okay, I have progress. Here is my stick season. Here is where, this is the stick season sweater by the Crave, Rebecca Clow. Here is my progress keeper, which is another little Hello Lavender stitch marker, and it's a tiny leaf and it's cute. And that's the back side of it. So obviously, like all her progress keepers, there's all this cute little, let me go to the front side. Cute little detail on the front side. Okay, anywho, this is a this is a sweater for my husband. I have made quite a lot of progress. So I did the rest of the back. I did the shoulder panels things, and then I joined last night. I did put this over his sweatshirt last night and just like made sure like where it was sitting looked correct. And the underarms and the back looks correct. That's a little bit hard to judge when he's wearing a sweatshirt. So I'm gonna have him try it on, like once I get to where I think I need to be for the front, and then I can like make sure it's situated correctly at the neck. I'm gonna have him try it on again. My thought is I might have to go back and add like 2 to 4 rows before I join in the back and then also in the front. So like you get yeah. The reason I think that is because this pattern, though it can be unisex, really has instructions more for the female form. She makes some notes in the beginning on where testers found success to adapt for a male body. And just being that men typically have, can have like, they have more trap muscles, they can have a longer, you know, shoulder to armpit kind of ratio. So I think this is a thing for him, is like, it's not necessarily actually has a much smaller torso than me, like height wise, but that's like under rib. His shoulder to armpit is like similar to mine, and he's 2 sizes smaller than me, right? Like he doesn't have boobs, but also like he's a skinny guy. So anyway, yeah, so I mean he has like pretty broad shoulders, and so I was like, also, do I need to make it bigger? But I think this is a good size for him. This gives him a little bit of ease. The other adaptation, I went through people's Ravelry notes, and like a couple of people were like, oh, for men you have to do so much stuff, and a couple of people were like, I just had to make a couple of like arm by the armpit be a little bit longer, which is what Rebecca puts in the pattern, and also adjust the body length and the sleeve length. What I do think is like the other things I read were like potentially less decreases in the arm. And I mean, he's here and this is not a surprise, so it's easy for me to have him try on. I do think he doesn't like when things are very tight, but he doesn't want like baggy to a cuff thing. Like that's not the look he would like. So I think I may slow down the decreases, but still do most of them. And I think what the other suggestion from somebody's thing was just like men like have bigger chests but tend to have like more tapered waists. Mike is the same, and so like I may do a couple of decreases down the body so it's not like straight and or baggy on him. Anywho, that's what I'm making. This is another knit with the merino cone from Woolly Knit. So this one is size 4. It's 44.5 inches. Recommended ease is 2 to 6 inches. His chest is like at the widest like 39.5. I wanted to do the 44.5 partly because it was about the size of one of his sweaters that he likes, though that's a little bit bulkier in size, but partly because of the chest, right? Like or like the shoulder chest area. I thought it would be better to taper. I did have that thought earlier. I was like, oh, maybe it's better to do that than to have like it be a little bit too tight across his chest, because that's what's going to bug him. Okay, I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles for the body. The ribbing will be 3.25 millimeters. The Woolly Knit cones again are 257 yards when you hold it double, 100% merino, and I am using the color Pinot Green. It's actually kind of similar to this green, and Mike doesn't wear a lot of green, but he should. He looks great in green, so I'm making him a green sweater. So he has to. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's gonna definitely block a little wider, and I think these sticks will just like spread a little. I'm getting towards the end of the stick part. I think after you join sleeves, you do just like a little bit and then you go to just stockinette body. I do enjoy the sticks, but it's like basically ribbing. So I'm going to be excited to not be doing a bunch of ribbing. Rose. Okay. I have one new cast on for the week. Okay, my new cast on for the week is my first Iris Makes pattern. I mentioned this early in December, I think last year. I am an affiliate for Iris H from Iris Makes. She is a full-time woman in STEM and a pattern designer and a knitter, and she just doesn't have that much time to do all of the social media outreach that she wants. So she has, I think there's only 5 of us affiliates, and all that really means is I get to talk about her patterns. I get some patterns gifted to me in return. And she said, like, it's just talk about them however I normally would. So, when I would like to test knit or I get priority to test knit, I would like to test knit for her. She has one test happening right now. That's a very fun cabled summer top. The call just went out at a time where I was trying to clear my needles, so I decided not to do it, but I will probably do her next test knit. And I have a discount code, so it's at the bottom. It's at the top of the comments or the description info, so you can click there and get a discount on her website. I've said this before, but if you want your patterns to be on Ravelry, you can still use the discount on her website, and she will, and just leave her a note, and she will also put them into your Ravelry library. So I decided one of the patterns I got from her in December was the Sweet Shop Chunky cardigan, and I decided to cast it on because I reorganized my yarn wall, and this no longer fit, this quantity of yarn. I was like, you know what? That's a sign. It's a sign that I'm going to make this blanket now, or blanket. Gosh, still early in the morning. This cardigan now. So this is the Sweet Shop Cardigan Chunky. I am 2 balls of the wool into this, almost 2 full balls, and I'm not quite split for sleeves, but I'm getting there. How fun is this? I'm really close, actually. I think I have like just a couple more increased rows, and then you just do the purl row. It's not really pearls, it's a rib row. And then I am like straight on to splitting for sleeves. This is a very oversized top down raglan chunky cardigan. I'm actually really excited. This is not like a me color, but I've had a lot of this yarn in my stash for a long time, and I've like always been like, I don't know what I would make with that. But I think a cardigan is great because I can be wearing whatever I want and just like have this at my desk and like throw it on. It's not a walking around cardigan because I think you'd be dying of heat in it. But if you like live a cold place and your house gets a little bit chilly, this is like the perfect inside cardigan. It's not gonna have buttons. It does, like, and there's no button band to put on, the ribbing, everything kind of just happens at once, which is like so amazing for this yarn because it's just so chunky and lovely. So I am using the recommended yarn, which is, this is what her sample in the pattern is, which you will have just seen because I popped up on the screen. This is Yarnicorn. So this is We Are Knitters The Wool, which is the heaviest weight. They have a super bulky, and it's called Yarnicorn. It's 87 yards. Is that true? 87 yards. Yeah, for 200 grams. I mean, think about that. It's so much yarn. I mean, it's so thick. So it's going to be real heavy, real warm. It is a broken rib, which is a really fun way to show off this this yarn. You can see it's like cotton candy. There's just like so many colors on there. I'm really excited to get it done relatively quickly. And I started that on Tuesday, and I really didn't touch it this last couple of days because I was working on the stick season a lot. But my goal, like every time I pick it up, is to like most of a ball of yarn because it doesn't take that long. But I am making that with 12 and 15 millimeter needles. Like the body is in 15 millimeter needles. Like my hands don't even know what to do with themselves. I can't actually knit on it for a long time because it's like your whole, like my whole hand is the needles. And I was like, this is so strange. I used to make a lot of things in bulky, super bulky yarn, and I'm out of practice. So I'm making, because this is really oversized, I think there's only 5 or 6 sizes, but they are very generous in sizing, and they go, it is pretty much a size inclusive pattern. I say pretty much because I think the biggest size is like 71 inches is the actual garment size, but the recommended ease is 4 to 14 inches, and so 74 would be technically size inclusive if you're going to the whole 14 inches. But I think because there's not as many sizes, because there's not as much forgiveness in how much raglan, you know, like what you put in, because it's, the yarn is so big, and each, you know, it's like 7 or 8 stitches in 4 inches. I'm not kidding. Like it's huge. So yeah, so that's all I have to say about that. But I think that the it looks really cute. And so this one, I just said, I don't want something really oversized in my Calm Down cardigan. I think it's like just the way that drapes and everything. This is intentionally just like a giant floof thing. I also don't think I'll wear it out a ton, although I definitely could just wear it as a jacket here in the spring because, well, it's not raining, which it's always raining in the spring here. But if it wasn't raining in the spring, it's not that cold. So like I could probably get away with just wearing this if it's not windy out also, because it's just a knit thing. So it'll let the air in. But anyway, I'm excited for the prospect of it. I think it's really fun. It's going to be really nice to use that yarn. I've had that yarn in stash for, you know, God, probably like 4 or 5 years now. So, I will be glad to get it out. Actually, no, not that long, because I got that from a D-stash. I got like 1 ball of Yarnicorn myself from We Are Knitters. I got a lot of that from a D-stash. So yeah, it's nice to just use up like large volume of yarn. Okay, my last whip is a spinning whip, and I'm going to show you I guess the yarn first, or the fiber first. So this is Lavender Latte, which is from Dyed by Backloop Yarn Co. It is Rambouillet. And it's my first Rambouillet spin. So I was like kind of nervous, because I tried Rambouillet on Ariel's wheel when right after she got it, and it was really hard for me. I also hadn't spun, like, only did the class, hadn't spun again. It had been a couple of weeks, and I just like, it's a little bit more slick of a yarn. This is what I've got so far, which is just this super pretty purpley gray. I think that a lot of the yarn is going to look like this purpley gray. We'll have bits of pink, bits of bits of brown. I'm really excited. So what I decided to do for this is I am going to do a 2-ply, and I have 2 4-ounce skeins of this, or braids of this. So I am going to do both of them at once, and I'm going to do one. I'm going to see how it goes for the first one first, but my intention is to just split it in half and then spin each half opposite way, because it doesn't have a lot of color deposits. They're not necessarily saturated the whole thing. There's not like lines of color. It's more just like, and I brought this down to show you, it's more just like mostly a gray-y purple with like little blotches, and some of those blotches are still, you know, they're not super saturated in color, so it's not going to be like an overwhelming color shift there. So what I'm hoping, but you definitely can see, like I did a little bit of a brown patch, and I didn't prep this yarn yet, so this is really or this fiber, this is really what it looks like. What I am doing, so I split it, and then I tied a little knot in opposite ends, and that's the part I'll begin with each time, and then I will do the same thing for the other one, and I will see what that looks like for a 2-ply. I think it'll like sprinkle in that the pink and the brown, and that would be so nice. So that's the end of the whips. Okay, so I have 5 whips on my needles. Let's talk about this before we get to books. I have 5 whips on my needles, and that feels still kind of like a lot, because I'm like, oh, I want to work on all of them right now. But they're all kind of different projects, and my intention is to keep 5 whips on the needles. When I get to 7 or so, then I will just leave a couple for weeks at a time, and then I feel like bad. I'm neglecting them. I'm like a bad yarny mom. No, I just like, I want to make progress on all of them, and so 5 feels relatively comfortable. What I'm planning to do is I have this like sort of crazy note, just like in a notebook that I've been writing, that is like what comes next on each needle. Obviously not the exact needle, but like in that whip replacements. That's what I'm trying to do this year, rather than just casting on because I get excited and then having 6 things and then back down, and like just trying to have 5. So when something is done, something gets cast on. So the Camaro came off the needles, and the Sweet Shop cardigan went on. Sweet Shop cardigan will come off, and I'm gonna likely then swap that for to start being a hat or socks, a travel project. Right now it was the quick hit dopamine project that I needed, but I think I'm going to not also incorporate a travel project, but still just have that as one of the 5. But that will come right after this. The gift knit will be a category right now, right? So I've got 4 gift knits I've committed to this year that I do want to do. It's not just like, oh, I said I was going to do it. I'm very excited to do all of them. And that will be like, so Mike's stick season, and then it'll be, you know, the next ones they're in a little queue. My ballerina wrap top, I'm hoping to keep a t-shirt on for right now, just continuously some sort of like t-shirt option there, so that I get 2 to 3 more t-shirts before the spring happens. That's my goal. So that means I also can't dilly-dally on that one. 1, 2, 3. Oh, my long-term whip, which is my Cinnabar. I am going to cast on my heirloom quilt cardigan after. That one I may exclude from the count, only because I am intentionally only going to do a few blocks a week, and then I will seam them all together like in the later in the year. I don't know that I'm gonna like roll that into being like a really big project. What I will say is I do have a couple of crochet projects I'd like to get done this year, and I'm not going to count them as a needle. They're going to be a whip, but because I don't love crocheting as much as I used to, I'm really into knitting. I don't want to, like, they may just be like a little bit lingering type things, and that's okay. When my Calm Down cardigan comes off, that's the last one. I planned to put on a sweater for me. So this is the current thought process. I don't know if I'm gonna stick to it, but I feel like that feels like a good way to manage myself. Yeah. I could always just cast more things on, but I do not want to have 12 different projects sitting around my house in different states. I am trying to be better about taking notes up front, and I do that much better because of the podcast, but I also don't want to just like have something and be like, gosh, I have no idea what I was doing on this. Because the last time you put something down, you never know. That's the last time you put it down for a while. So, you know, that's the current thought. Okay. Let's do books really fast. So I think I said last week I was reading this. Okay. Yeah. So, last week I was reading, Cherish, which is Crave book number 6 by Tracy Wolff. I finished that this week, and I didn't have that much left when, during last week's episode. I finished that. That I think is the end of the series. I don't know if I'd pick it up again if it's not published now and it comes out later. But they are paranormal, sort of romancy, a little more YA type books about, like a girl's coming of age story, and like they've got to save the world and they're teenagers, and you know, that kind of story. It was okay. They're longer than they need to be, like generally speaking. The series itself is also longer than it needs to be. I don't know, like I think teenagers would love this. There's lots of angst in there. There's like definitely some romance. It's like mostly closed door love scene type things. Maybe like a little bit, like there might be a couple parts I was like, ooh, slightly scandalous, but really not. Anyway, they were okay. I just completed them because I was on a journey to complete them. I really love the main guy character. I think the main girl is like, she's like kind of dumb and whiny, but also like it's one of those things where like when she figures out what her thing is, I think it's like, at first it seems like, okay, this is good. She doesn't just know how to be this mystical thing, right? But also then other times it's like all of a sudden she's like now leveled up, and I'm like, I don't really get how that happened. Anyway, it's fine. It was fine. What I did finish this week though also was, I got this, I put it on hold at the library like early in the holidays, and then it was like kind of a long wait. And I was like, I didn't even know if I was going to read it, honestly, because I was like, I felt done with Christmas books. But it was a Christina Lauren book, and you guys know how I feel about a Christina Lauren book. So I was like, I'm going to just do it. So this book is called In a Holidaze. Oh my gosh. Go read this book. I'm not kidding. I always recommend her books. I think they're fantastic, modern romance books, but this was like particularly great. There's a little bit of like a Groundhog Day thing happening. There's also like just so much character development. Also the sweetest love story. I could not put it down. I think I read it just like straight up like Friday and Saturday. That's it. Mike was watching a football game last night, the playoff game with his friends, and he was he's like, are you gonna be fine being home with baby? And like he left during her nap because he also went and played a little golf first. And I was like, yeah, like as I'm doing my chores, I just had my headphones on. I was like, yeah, I think I'll be fine. And I'm like listening to this book, and I was just like melting inside. It's like ooey gooey, so good. So good. So good. Go read it. I'm not kidding. Even if it's very Christmassy, but also like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. It's so good. Okay. Or put it on your list for next year, Christmas book, the first one you should read, because I loved it. I am still reading Shadow Rising, which is the 4th book in the Wheel of Time. There are 14 of these, and they are very long, and I'm going to finish them. So you guys are just on the ride. Rand and crew are doing all kinds of crazy things. I'm like 85% through, so I think 5 or 6 hours left, which is so much book, but it'll go pretty quickly, and I will finish it this week, and I'm gonna jump right into the next one because I just have to do that. It's still so interesting. It's just that there's like parts sometimes you like get introduced to a new character, and like I think he does this where it's like either he kind of told you something, or like you get thrown into some assumed knowledge here. Last night I started listening and I was like, did I miss a whole big thing? It was just the next chapter started like in the middle of a new character's perspective, and I was like, what the hell is happening? That happens and keeps it interesting. So I am still reading Dirty 30 also, which is a Stephanie Plum book, number 30 by Janet Evanovich. I have to keep reading this. It's on my Kindle. It's from the library. It's going to expire. I put my Kindle on airplane mode, so the book's not going to go away right now, but I can't read anything else while I do that. I just need to get done. Yeah. Not much to share there. I don't have anything else I'm listening to right now, so there were like a couple books. Like I didn't realize I was at the end of my loan time for the Bookshops and Bone Dust, so I didn't finish that, but I put it back on hold, and I will finish that as soon as I get it. And I don't have that much left of it. I let it get towards the end before I started it. Okay, that's books. That's whips. A couple of things to talk about. Number one is I have a fun thing to announce. I am going to do the most casual again of knit-alongs for the Instant Crush. So the Instant Crush, put a picture here. I'll get off my way. The Instant Crush is a pattern that came out early fall by Joji Locatelli. It is, she's Joji Locat on Instagram. She is, if you don't know her, a pretty prolific pattern designer. She's what I love about Joji's style is like she's got like a lot of types of garments. Like she doesn't just make the same thing over and over again. She's got lots of different things, different vibes. She does shawls. She's a little bit Andrea Mowry-esque, although I think Andrea Mowry has like a really strong style sense, and most of her designs really do fit within that. And I think Joji has like a very feminine, pretty style, but she also has like lots of garments that feel like, I don't know, that fit like different moods of the day or something. Like they're just like so many different types of things. Anywho, so this is a pattern that is 2 strands of, I think it's written for 2 strands of mohair held together, a DK weight. You could use DK weight yarn instead. It is 4 colors, I believe, and it's all over color work with those 4 colors fluff sweater. I had somebody ask if I would do any of my Make 12 as a knit along, and I said I sure will, and we talked about which patterns, and that's the one that we're going to start with. So I am going to pull out, I'll show you guys what fluff I'm using as a reminder. I bought this yarn this fall right after the pattern came out, and I was like, yep, I'm gonna make that. So I'm gonna make this a February cast on. That is yeah, I need to get this. I need to get one of my Make 12 on the needles soon, because, you know, again, I don't have to make all of them. This is just like a fun thing. It was like, it's really a reminder highlight reel of patterns and yarn I already have. So this is, yes, going to go on the needles. Also, why the heirloom cardigan might not count is because I think this will be the Cinnabar replacement. I am going to do our make along. Start date will be February 1st. You don't have to join on February 1st. You can join anytime after. Go get your fluff, find your DK. Because you have more options of colors, you could also mix fluff and regular DK or 2-fingering held together. Use some stash yarn because it doesn't use a ton of yarn in each of the colors. And these are my colors. As a reminder, these are all Backloop Yarn Co. Of course they are. And I have Frost, Tia Beanie, Nordic, and Goldenrod. And they are gorgeous, and I am so excited to use them. Okay, so it's another make along. Just like my last one, this is super chill. I am gonna have it for a lot longer. So I think I'm gonna do something like 8 to 10 weeks. You know, maybe we just do 2 full months. The cast off date is March 30th, 31st. Let's just make that a thing. So February 1st to March 31st. And we will hopefully cast off together. Please join if you would like to make this pattern. I would love for people to post. I will make a little hashtag and share that next week. Pick out your colors and show me, send me notes. That's so fun. And really, I'm making this pattern. I'm gonna do it anyway. It's on my Make 12, and I would love if you joined me. I think this is gonna be a really good one. I've seen people, like, everyone who's made this it's so gorgeous. Got a lot of hype in the fall. And then definitely a slew of people making it this winter. I am, yeah, really excited to do another fluffy thing. I don't have any fluff on my needles right now, and I feel like I would love some. I am going to potentially have a couple of prizes if we get a few people join. I have some stuff in stash. I have a couple of things that I would like happily pull names if we get people joining. If it's, just a couple of us, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But it would be so fun. So I know prizes get people to join. So if you want to join, please do. If you want a prize, send me a message and I'll see what I can do on having people join and having a couple of or having a little giveaway thing. So I'm really excited to do that. An Instant Crush knit. Okay. I got a really interesting question last week or 2 weeks ago, and someone sent this to me actually over just messaged me on Instagram, and they asked if I could talk about on the podcast what is the criteria I look for before I buy a pattern. And I said, that's a really great question. And I will say so here's how I pattern shop. And reminder, I was test knitting a lot of sweaters and then usually getting a sweater pattern in payment. And that is how I got several sweaters that are, done, that I have completed, and also sweaters that I have like in my queue. I started buying more sweater patterns in 2023, and I do have some requirements, so I would love to share those with you. So I do a couple of things before I buy a pattern. When I go through and I look for patterns, sometimes I'm just looking on Hot Right Now. Sometimes I'm looking for a specific thing. If I've got an idea of a specific thing, or sometimes I'm looking for like what yarn I have that I want to use. So if I'm like, oh, I would like inspiration for this yarn, I will sometimes search by that yarn, whatever. But if you land on a pattern you like, this is what I do. And this is all in Ravelry for the most part. So if you're not a Ravelry user, maybe their website, I don't know if I have tons of other suggestions, like go on their website, look at reviews, Etsy reviews if they're on Etsy, Instagram. Okay, but here's what I do, is I always look for a couple of things. So I have like a little bit of criteria. I do only really like to purchase size inclusive patterns. I will make one exception for that this year, and that is a pattern that my sister-in-law picked out. She had a kind of a specific requirement for a part of her garment. The idea that I showed her happened to be the one she's like, oh my gosh, I love that so much. And so I'm going to buy this pattern, though it is not size inclusive, to make for her. Partly because I can't really find a replacement. Okay, now, so I typically look for size inclusivity in the range. That's a personal thing that I'm looking for. I will look through the details. I really only purchase patterns when the details in the Ravelry page include not just 3 balls of whatever yarn, but all of the yardage needed, which they really all should. I just worry about what's missing in the pattern if this basic information is not in that like info about the pattern page. I want to know the general construction, so the kind of about the garment. I want to know all of the finished bust measurements. I want to know the recommended ease and the size range. So I know if it's like what I want, right? Before I purchase it, that's what I want to know. That's dictating a lot of things in the decision. I want to know the yardage required, and ideally they have a schematic. Someone like Amy Scher has committed to putting a schematic in her Ravelry page. So she does this schematic from her pattern. She puts as one of the pictures for every Ravelry pattern. And I think that's fantastic. And also the skills required, because sometimes they don't necessarily point out certain things. So what kind of short row shaping, those things are usually included in the skills required. I think it's important that all that stuff is there and that it's like easy to read and I kind of understand like what I'm getting. I then, before purchase still, I will go through two things. I go through the Instagram hashtag of the pattern to see testers. Not every tester uses Ravelry, and I don't want to like discount them for that. And I go through the Ravelry projects that are tagged. If you ever are looking at Ravelry, you just pick the little projects tab at the top of any pattern, and it will show you all of the patterns tagged to that. Or all of the projects tagged to that. I will sometimes just filter if there's a lot, like if this isn't one that's been out for a while, I'll filter only by the finished ones first, but I do want to see people who don't complete it. But the finished ones, and I'll go through some of the notes. I tend to look at the testers or the completed projects that are closer to a plus size, because I want to make sure those people still like their fit. They didn't have any extra like big modifications they were making, whatever. I've obviously been burned by this peep show pullover. So I want to make sure that they seem good. And I do also sometimes, like if there's a lot of projects, but there's not that many finished and it's been out for a little bit, red flag, I will like go in and look and like see what people have to say about it. Maybe something's unclear. I do also go to the comment section and usually skim that. Sometimes you'll get like a lot of comments of people just being like, oh, I love this design, or, you know, like whatever. But sometimes you see questions in there that the designer maybe has not answered. And those are a little bit of a red flag for me. If it's a new to me designer, especially, I will do this due diligence because I want to make sure that that person's going to be accessible for questions if I have them. I have like a very great knitting community. And so I also can field questions out to others other than the designer. And like one of our knitting friends is a designer for patterns. So she can also puzzle things out for us if I really needed to. But I think that, you know, designers are not at your beck and call, but I think it's great that on their project page if they answer questions. Okay, that's Ravelry side. I do also do a little Instagram stalking. If it's a new to me designer, I'll usually go on their Instagram page and just like look through a little bit about them. I want to make sure they're like a person I want to support. They are a human being, right? And I want to kind of take that into account. I also want to make sure I haven't really found anybody that was like, oh gosh, this person is horrible, right? But there are a couple of designers out there who I've like seen patterns, I really like them, and then I've gone on their Instagram pages and they don't seem very like maybe not size inclusive friendly. There's just like maybe some language or other things. I'm just like, I don't know, this is like not super my thing. And then, you know, then I don't buy that pattern and it's okay. I also on Instagram will just make sure they're like active, because I feel like them being active again is like more likely they'll answer questions, or, you know, and those pieces are really important, especially if it's a new to me designer, because sometimes everybody writes differently. It's like you write books differently, you know, the flow of it. Hopefully testers have caught things, but some designers use the same tester pool for a lot of things. And so they're used to that language and maybe I would not be, right? I don't know. I feel like it's just a little bit, it's not a huge investment, right? Like a $7 pattern is not the biggest investment, but what it is, it's like an emotional investment. Like, and also if I don't feel like I can use that pattern, then it's a wasted $7. It's only really a latte that I've replaced in my life, but hey, that's a latte that I can't have now. No, but I don't want a bunch of patterns that are like unusable in my queue, right? Like I want to make smart decisions, and it is that it's like emotional investment, getting the yarn specific to that thing. What if I can't find a replacement for that yarn? You know, it's like a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Okay, so I'm a little bit crazy. I do all of these things. This does not take a long time, people. Like, this is a couple minutes to scan through the pattern, look through a couple of the pattern pages. Like, I'm not spending 30 or 40 minutes doing this. I'm spending like a little handful of minutes going through their Instagram page. I just click and look through a couple of pictures. Like, it's a whole, like, in the whole thing, it's like 15 minutes. You should see me when I'm trying to buy something that's like $100. I'm like... That's my low threshold. I'm like doing all the research. It's like getting a new pair of shoes. I'm like all the research. What about for wide toes? You know, like for all of the things. And that's my, you know, personal preference. It's like, watch me buy some new yarn. I mean, I buy a lot of yarn, but I'm not buying yarn without doing a lot of research. So, it's a thing. It's a thing I like to do. Yeah, and that's really what I'm looking for. So I also do look to see like that there's tester photos like on bigger bodies. That I really won't buy a pattern if the only pictures and like even the project pictures, you know, if there's not Instagram photos of larger testers. I think, and I also really love to support designers, especially who like have great testing programs, have testers that they like share tester photos. They like they exclaim about their testers who do all this free labor for them. I think that that's really important personally. Like, so it's a personal feeling. So I really extra want to support some of those designers. Okay. And the last, yeah, I mean, and then I just like to make sure that obviously the yarn, it'll work for the yarn I have and things like that. I will say there's a couple of like newer to me designers that I'm going to try out this year. So when it's the first time I'm knitting with that designer's pattern, I'm going to be sure to give you a little extra shout out of, you know, like how it's written. So like, do I find it confusing? Is it sparse? Is it, you know, like all of those pieces. So like, for example, we talked a little last week, the stick season is not actually a sparse pattern. It's got quite a lot of meat on it because there's a lot of things and, you know, differences by sizing for a lot of things. Some of like the Leith pattern was a pretty basic cardigan, and that cardigan by the Crave, which was my first sweater pattern from her, was a little bit not sparse. It was a little truncated. Was that like a weird way to say that? It was brief. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I thought there was enough details and everything. A lot of it is, you know, knit to a certain measurement. There was not a lot of extra explanation. So if it was my first knit cardigan. I didn't really feel like I needed extra explanation. I thought it was clear enough, but it was my first ever knit sweater. I would be maybe like wanting a little bit more, right? For Iris Knits, this is my first sweater ever from her. And again, this is a very bulky, this is not a lot of rows, right? To complete this pattern. And the details and the pattern itself is pretty short. And there's, again, not a ton of details, but it's a raglan cardigan. And I don't think that there needs to be a lot of explanation personally for me, but it's definitely, you know, not as explicit. I thought the instructions are very clear. So let me not say that, but it's maybe not got a lot of like, and then you're going to do this because of blah, blah, blah explanation, which I think some American designers tend to do more of. Okay. That's my thought on that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, well, I mean, this is like part 1 and 2, is the duotone dropped last week, middle of last week. Anyway, but this is my last completed sweater of 2023 was my duotone, which is that I-cord 2-color, like a different color fluff, different color fingering, very fun sweater with like the contrasting, just the fingering as collar, cuffs, hem. Okay, super fun sweater. That released, and I just want to let people know, in case you didn't see this in either Rachel Costello knitwear pattern or Rachel from ZZ Textiles, who was her partner in the pattern. Rachel from ZZ Textiles is including a 15% coupon, and I don't know how long it lasts, but like that's a really great discount to her sweater library, and you can go get amazing colors. So if you were interested, do it now so you can get your discount from Rachel, and that's like so fun. Okay, just thought you should know that. The other thing is, I haven't done this in a while, is there were so many collections. We did talk about a little bit in the fall. There's so many fall collections. Well, we're into the spring collections, and I do love to do Dyer highlights, so I'm going to do a couple right now. And I'm only going to show you pictures from one of them. So in case you're living under a rock, EKF is doing a monochrome collection. It is 30 colors and 15 pairs of 2 monochrome colors. So 2 colors that are very close in like tone, that you could use in some patterns that she highlights for monochrome. Okay. And that comes out January 28th. I'll show you a couple of pictures. This is amazing. I mean, she released the palette in like its form of like little painty squares, which was very fun. And like, I know Sylvan was like, I'm going to try to guess what some of those colors are. And they, I think are all of them. I think all of them are like old colors. There might be like maybe 1 or 2 new ones. I don't know. I think that they're all old colors. I've, you know, only bought EKF last year, so I'm not well versed in all of the old collections, but some things that I have seen come back already more than once are back again. You guys, To the Stars Who Listen is back, which, like, do I need another To the Stars Who Listen sweater? Maybe. It's the most perfect teal. I think it's the most perfect teal color that's ever been created, and I will stick by that. There are so many colors in this. In my neon era, which is this pink here, is back in the collection. I only got 1 skein of that from that Sylvan picked up for me from the summer market. I am going to make a hat with that. Do I want a sweater with it? Now that I got that flamingo, which is a little too bright for me, and this is more of a, like, I would wear a sweater in this. Do I do that? I don't know. I don't know that I'll buy from this. I don't know that I won't buy from this. I don't have a hard rule. I'm sort of like filling it out. The last few colors are dropping this week. And then I will see what patterns are released with suggestions. I'll see if I want 2 together, if I'm just like, nope, I want one of those colors very much so. Maybe the one I'm most excited for right now is something that I really would crave for, like a tank top, and so I would not maybe get a lot of yarn, is Freezy Pop. And Freezy Pop came out for the summer market last year, and I don't know if it was new then, but I did not get any of it. And yes, I have a lot of blues and things, but I don't actually have like that color in my stash. And so, like, do I need it? It's actually like, it's a much greener, dark. It's like the monochrome match to this, like a darker version, a little bit greener version of this. And like, I feel like that would be so fun for a summer thing. This is close to Spindrift, actually, pretty close. Is that true? Let me look at the Spindrift on Surrey. Yeah, this is pretty close to Spindrift, which is the accompanying color. So like, I know I like this. I know I like this tone for myself, so maybe I do want that slightly darker. Ooh, that would be fun. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna dream a little and think about it. Okay, the other ones that I wanted to highlight is Long Dog Yarn, who, you know, I love Brandy. I think she's great. Has a Princess Bride collection coming out February 10th. Why I say this, even though she hasn't released colors yet, is watch out for her stories and her posts in the next couple of weeks, because colors will be coming out. But I've already she sneaky peeked a couple of them on Discord, and they're pretty fun. I'm not like a huge Princess Bride lover. It's not a fandom of mine. I know that some people like really love it, watch it you know, a lot on repeat. I've seen it, you know, several times in my life. It's, you know, it's a movie. And you know, so sue me if you love that movie. No, it's fine. It's just not a fandom of mine. But through the Wardrobe Yarn Co., who Selena, I've never bought yarn from her, but I do really love a lot of the colors she's come out with. And as I've been buying more hand-dyed yarn, she's one of those dyers that's on my list for, like, I just, you know, it needs to be something I really love to be adding to this whole wall here. But I'm tempted. She put out like a little teaser thing just of the Lady Whistledown's papers, like just a Bridgerton teaser. So she's gonna do a Bridgerton collection, which I think is gonna be a lot of pastel colors and will be really great for the spring. And so if you're a pastel person and you would like all of those pastel things, I think look out for those colors. The collection is coming out March 1st, but I think she'll be also releasing colors in the next few weeks. Anyway, so those are things that are coming up, and that's so exciting. Yeah, I had a great time hanging out with you today. I want to know though, anybody have other criteria they look for when they buy a pattern? Like what keeps you from buying it? What is, what are the things? I will say, like, a couple other things I look for now, just like, this is a personal preference. See, look, the bra straps drive me nuts. A personal preference for things I like in sweaters, right? Like, I look for things I like in sweaters. Like, I would love if there's short row shaping in what I'm buying. And I think there's some patterns that make that difficult, right? And so I'm not opposed to buying if I really love parts of the pattern, but I'm gonna also then be a little bit more careful about my research for those. But like, what are the other things you look for? Is it like, what gets you to pick that? Obviously I get drawn in by pictures, but then I do the research. I don't just buy because that picture looks nice on the designer for the sample, because that's not always accurate for life. But yeah, I mean, like, I definitely think I'm trying to buy intentionally patterns, because there's a lot of things out there in the world. There's so many things to get excited about. But like, all of the things on my Make 12, I either already own or I have done research for and are approved by me to buy. Yeah, so I want to know, like, when have you gotten burned before, and like what do you look out for? And if I get some good suggestions or other things, I'll share them next week too. Because I think, especially if you have not bought a lot of patterns, or you're getting kind of newly into sweaters, like, what do you look for? It's a big question. I think that's easy to get into the trap, and I definitely did in the beginning, where like, oh, that looks cute, and just like buying it and hoping for the best. And I'm not going to do that anymore, because I don't know, people do not design all the same way. They're not, tech edited the same way, and there are things I like and prefer. So yeah, I think that's what I would love to know this week. Plus, what were you knitting on while you were hanging out with me? I think, like, I'm excited for some spring patterns. Are you planning anything? Are you like still deeply into sweaters? And that is obviously, so am I. But yeah, share, keep the conversation going. If you want to just reach out to me and message on Instagram, do that. I am also _naughty_mess there. And I'm on Ravelry, and I did put in some notes about these most recent projects. I am doing measurements. I'm getting my yarn into the calculator. And yeah, well, I don't think I'm going to do it monthly, but I'm definitely going to do it like periodically this year. My stash number update, where I started, what I'm at, for you guys to just stay in the know and keep it front of mind for me. So thanks for hanging out. I hope you have a really great week, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks. Bye.